Welcome once again to the Talking Archive. My name is Josh Jacobs, and I've been hosting this podcast for nearly 4 years, and this is a first for us. Usually I have one guest, but today we have two guests here. Our first guest is Jan Marie. You best know her from Coast 103.5, as well as David Narz, who was on many stations, including a couple with Jan Marie. And thank you both for being with us today.
It's good to be here.
Thank you. Thanks.
Well, Jan, tell us about yourself growing up and how you got into radio.
Okay. Growing up, I grew up in Inglewood, California. We moved to the OC just before I began high school. But in sophomore year at high school, I suddenly started listening to the radio. Of course, I liked music and I liked the hits and everything. But I was listening to what the DJ was doing and saying, how they were doing it. I just wanted to do that. I had a great musical education. I studied piano, violin, viola, so I really knew music, how to read it, how to play it. But more than that, I was interested in the announcing of these songs that I was so enamored with and liked so much. And I'm not saying I would go into classical radio at all. I wanted to be very contemporary, of course. At that time, I was pretty young then. I don't remember the age, but anyway. And I worked at KWIZ, which was Westminster High School in the OC, and it was on in the afternoon or lunchtime. And I did a little of it. I didn't do a lot with that, but I really loved that. And that was the very beginning of my discovering radio and any kind of work. And that, of course, was non-commercial, but you made it sound as commercial as possible to be really a DJ, you know.
Who were your favorite DJs growing up?
One that really inspired me to want to get into radio is, I can't remember his name, on K-Day.
Not Wolfman Jack.
No.
Bob Dayton?
No. He was an afternoon guy mainly. And I later met him. He became a Christian. And but even when I first listened to him, there was something different about his greeting, his delivery, how he never did the two-way remarks or anything suggestive, you know, or not moral or something. And I just loved his interest in, well, he liked the bands. I loved Chicago then and just the bands, the music I liked. And I thought, I really identify with this guy, and anyway, and he did inspire me to really just go for it. He didn't have a really deep, perfect voice, just great personality. And it came from his heart, everything he said and the music he played in it. And he really convinced me to pursue the pursuit I was desiring, to do this or try to do it anyway. And that's that. That was it.
That's great. And the two of you both went to the Don Martin School of Broadcasting.
Yeah, School of Communications, that is. Yes.
Changes his name a lot.
Okay.
And tell us about how you got into that school.
Well, the deal is here on my side. My father was a barber at Farmer's Market, and he cut people's hair from CBS, and he would and announcers and stuff. So he said, because Columbia School was pushing their business and all, and I'd heard like that's not a good place to go if you seriously want to do this. So anyway, and he found out from them, they recommended Don Martin School. It was serious, and they really trained well. And then I found out once I was in, you could go for then it was, you had to do it this way, go for your FCC license, first, second, or third, endorsed. And I ended up pursuing that too. didn't do great, but talent gets you a long way when you don't have your first. And I loved it. Radio 6 days a week, always, I guess, almost everywhere. My first station was in King City, California, and it said, the stationery said, located in the fertile Salinas Valley, the salad bowl of the nation. And you're thinking, oh boy, this is a real star-studded town, I can tell. But it was a blast, an absolute blast. And I was the only female there at the station, and it was just, we had so much fun. And I kind of brought more color and humor, because we go off the air at sunset. This was such a small station. And so at night we had the whole on-air studio was our production room. And I started writing commercials with different characters and voices and sound effects, and they were pretty corny, but they were great, and people loved them that wanted to buy time on the air to sell their product or whatever. And I learned so much at that station doing that. I also was in charge of traffic, which is assigning commercials and all that stuff. But there I had to they had KRKC TV News, and I didn't want anything to do with the news, but I ended up having to do it. So I was like the co-host or whatever. And I also did some color. They would broadcast the football games on Fridays there, and I had to do color sometimes. And I didn't especially like that, but I learned wherever I worked, I was learning.
Yeah, it was. I guess you didn't have to milk any cows like at some radio stations.
No, none of that.
And well, David, you also went to the Don Martin School.
I
there.
did. So after high school, I was actually involved in construction, and my brother and I and a couple of Italian guys, we started a framing company, and we were signatory to the union. And as soon as we incorporated ourselves, the union went on strike, and I thought, well, I need a plan B. And growing up, as you know, my father, my uncles all started in radio and then eventually television and game shows. I think it might have been my mom suggested, because believe it or not, my grandmother was dating Don Martin. And we actually took a trip to his house. I think we had lunch at his house, and he was convincing me that, maybe you ought to, because of the history that you have in the family, why don't you go to the school? So I did, and it was 1 year. Again, same thing like Jan said. You go there to get your, in my case, I did get my first class radio license. But I didn't want to spend a year. I'd already been making money in construction. I'm going, I can't not make money. I need, I was out of the house and all that. So I needed something to do. So I actually went to the school. They had daytime and nighttime classes. So I doubled up. I'd go daytime and nighttime. And it was a little, I was going to say, a little weird going to a school where in the hallway they had pictures of their graduates. And there's a picture of my dad and a picture of my uncle. Now, for context, my mom also went to Don Martin School. She was the first woman to get her first-class radio ticket license out of Don Martin, and the third in the nation. My grandmother went to Don Martin School. She was in real estate, but the communication part of the school was also there to help you, relate to people and talk. And so she took that as a kind of a class to the, for communications. My uncle went there. And again, you walk down the hallways and there's Dad's portrait when he was like in 1947, had the Elvis curly Q haircut. So, yeah, we went there, and that's where I actually met Jan. I was living in Seal Beach. She was living in Westminster?
Huntington.
And we found out that we lived about 10 minutes apart, so we started carpooling. And we did that up until I started doubling up classes. And that's how we got to know each other in school. I think I got out before she did, or was very close to the same time, but because I doubled up classes, I got out a little sooner. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
And after that, you both got to work at 96.7 KWIZ FM. And now, which one of you went there first or got the job first?
Jan.
I did.
Oh, cool. Tell us about how you got the gig with KWIZ.
Oh, well, okay, here's the deal.
That's the Italian.
And one thing he was saying, he got out like he got sprung out,
Yeah, right.
prison. No. But from King City, my mother was like my biggest fan. Okay, and
mine too.
it was Dullsville in King City. I mean, radio is still 6 days a week, but it was kind of no action at all. I mean, and I was very young. I was 19, and I only worked there 9 months. My mother would send air checks from, well, not her. She would record on cassettes. Mm-hmm. Yes, cassettes were the form of medium for that time. And I said, well, I think I could do it. A female on KWIZ FM. I think I could do that. I mean, and I was assessing my talent thus far. I mean, I had a knowledge of what you should sound like. It wasn't like, I want to do it, so I will, not one of those. And I did. I tried out. I sent an audition there, and I ended up getting it. So I left King City after 9 months, and I got excellent experience. You get so much just working at different stations, various stations. You get knowledge of everything, programming, sales, whatever you're around or whatever you want to absorb. Mm-hmm. And if you have a true desire to succeed, that's what you do. And you learn that right away. But I did that. And at first, I had to work on KWIZ-AM and FM. And KWIZ-AM to me was very challenging. The studio looked more like a spaceship. It was bigger board, and I met some seasoned, important air talent there that I had never dealt with at all. And then I got part-time on KWIZ FM, but then it went to full-time. So, and Dave and I had so much fun there. I mean, it was just, we learned a lot. We did, but it was a blast working with my buddy from radio school. Silly.
And who had more listeners? Was it KWIZ-AM or KWIZ FM at the time?
I think KWIZ-AM, supposedly, because they had more of a personality type thing. They had a news guy, Ed Nix was doing news, Spider McLean, and all these other guys. And there was more popular music, more up. KWIZ FM was at one time kind of like a K-Earth format, had kind of like oldies, but slowly started turning into this, what they called Young and Beautiful, which was everything from John Denver to Frank Sinatra and Johnny Mathis, and it was just getting worse and worse, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And, breaks every 15 minutes and very slow music, not a lot of personality, just do the little headlines on top of the hour, do the weather on the bottom, and read the cards. And it got to the point where it was just kind of not, and again, thinking of our age at that time, that was not necessarily the music we would be accustomed to. But we had a few people that called all the time. It seemed like we had our fan base as well.
Yeah.
And how much did they, back then they didn't use consultants and research as much as they do now.
Right.
How did they use any at all, or was it pretty much gut instinct as far as the programming?
Wasn't it? It was more of a family affair, it seemed like.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. And a lot of, well, I sound like I'm complaining, but it's the truth. A lot of nepotism got priority, and that
Weaver was the father, and Martinez the daughter, and she was like the music director for the FM, and there was just Davis or something like that was the other partner or something like that. So it was kind of like a family trying to run the place, and they didn't want any outside source, which is kind of like why I eventually got out of radio. The creativity of it went away. Just so you know a little bit of my background. My first job, I think I told you a little bit, was I'm the engineer, I'm the morning announcer, I'm the music director, I'm the janitor, it's that. It was also a daytime station. So during the winter, you'd start like at 8:30 in the morning, but during the summer, you're there at 4:30 in the morning, working until noon, and whoever's doing the afternoons there from noon until legal sunset, and 7 days a week.
Wow.
So it was like just two of us, the owner of the station and me. So it got nasty. So I went from there, KZUL in Arizona, to KBOS in San Joaquin Valley up in Tulare, which was a 50,000 watt clear, FM album-oriented rock, which was great, but still it was in Tulare. So I got kind of disgruntled. I came back to Orange County, and I was a member of Local 504, which was a sound projectionist union. It was like IATSE 33 up here in L.A., IATSE 504 down there. And we were signatory to Disneyland, and I got a job at Disneyland. Disneyland had just finished, or were in the process of building Space Mountain, which had an outdoor stage at the time. At the time, it was outdoors.
I remember that stage. So, yeah, a lot of disco
horrible.
Shows there.
You go up the escalators, and the sound booth was like 25 feet above the stage, so it was just horrible for sound. But the new Mickey Mouse Club, the one with Lisa, I was telling you about.
Yeah, Lisa Walshall from Facts of Life.
And a couple other people were very popular, and they're going to do a show there. So they hired me there full-time, which was neat. I mean, when you join a union, sometimes you get a job, sometimes you don't. So I had full-time work. It was at Disneyland, but it was full-time work, so you had to cut your hair, you had to wear a white shirt, blue pants. It was very dress code oriented there.
No beards or mustaches?
No, unless, and that's what's weird. So here's some history for you. If you went to the Golden Horseshoe Review back then, there was a drummer, and he had a goatee. And I said, how come you have a goatee? He says, well, I was hired with a goatee. And when they changed the dress code, if I didn't shave it off, I could keep it. So there were a couple people there for a long time that had hair until they either retired or died. So I'm working at Disneyland, and I run into Jan. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but I saw you at Disneyland, and you told me, hey, you should try to go to KWIZ. And I was kind of like, well, okay, I'll see. And I put an audition tape together, and the next thing you know, I was working at, she was on from 6 to midnight, and I think I started midnight to 6 a.m.
Yeah.
It was all girls on it, and they said perfect timing. They wanted to have a guy on. So it was
you're the token male.
I was the token male, and I was working midnight to 6.
Yeah.
And that's how we ended up working at KWIZ-FM together.
Yes.
And I was there for, I don't know, about a year or 2 years or something like that.
That's interesting. You worked with the new Mickey Mouse Club, because that was the Mickey Mouse Club I grew up with.
Right.
And it also had Julie Piekarski would also be in the Facts of Life.
Right.
Mindy Feldman, Corey Feldman's older sister, was on there. And then Deanna Fonte was a longtime salesperson at 95.9 The Fish. Her older sister's name, Allison Fonte, was actually part of that show as well. So Deanna and I used to talk about it all the time. I never actually got to meet Allison, but it was cool to hear some stories from her as well. And a lot of people have forgotten about that. They remember the original from the 50s.
Right. That's who I grew up with, the original.
And my mom remembers well Jimmy Dodd and Roy Williams.
And from the cello.
So, yeah, just...
Cubby, the drummer.
That's right, yeah. And then, of course, the 90s one with Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake.
Right.
Ironically, the DJ who replaced me on 95.9 The Fish, Ryan James, I think he was on the last, half dozen episodes of the all-new Mickey Mouse Club from the 90s. So we had 2 Mickey Mouse Club representations of The Fish for a couple of years there.
That's funny. So they had an album. It's funny because there was one girl named Shantae. And she, for some reason, she gravitated to me, and she, again, I'm on the stage, working the stage, and there's sound guys and light guys and stuff, and a couple of them just, they're little kids, and I'm not much older, but I'm older, but it was like I was a father figure to her on this. I don't know what to do, and she like all this stuff, and she signed me. She had a little 5x7. She signed it for me, but there was an album, and they all signed the album for me, and I have it framed on my wall, the new Mickey Mouse Club. And people said, what do you have that album for? I said, look, it's got everybody's signatures on it. All the kids signed it for me. It was weird because that's, as you know about click tracks. So obviously when you have, I forget how many kids there were, but there was enough. When they're dancing around on stage and singing, all that is pre-recorded because there's no way that a kid dancing around on stage can have that pitch perfect. Now the solos are different. Mm-hmm. So we have 7 mics up there, and they're all color coded, right? And so every time they have a live part, they would go up to a mark and that particular mic and sing their part. But they were very talented kids. I mean, dancing around and doing all that. It was very much choreographed. That looked like they had some pretty strong people there to make sure that they were protected and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Typical Disney kids, But since I was at Disneyland, I would end up working the Coke Terrace. We'd do grad nights, so I worked with Leon Russell. I worked with Rose Royce. I worked with all these guys who would come in for grad nights and stuff. And it was really kind of neat. And I also worked outside Anaheim Stadium. Back then, there was a production company called Wolf and Rissmiller that did concert promotions. Mm-hmm. Angel Stadium, I'd work KWIZ-FM from midnight to 6, go over to Angel Stadium, and we start setting up for a Saturday night concert. And the biggest one that we did there was George Thorogood, Journey, when they just hired Perry, mm-hmm. and ELO when they had the big flying saucer that came up and all the lights. So I was part of the production crew. You'd subsidize. They'd have their sound crews, but the union said, hey, if you're going to come here, you got to use some of our guys. Mm-hmm. So I'd get off at work 6 a.m. from KWIZ, go to Angel Stadium, literally work 72 hours straight, because you'd have to break down after the concert Saturday night, because there's an Angel game at 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon. And then I'd have to go to work at midnight on Sunday night. It was like crazy.
And you had no Red Bull or 5-hour energy.
No. Well, back then I probably was doing something else, but it was more of a stimulant. But yeah, it was fun though.
Yeah, I mean, Orange County, my dad used to sell used albums, tapestries, and turquoise at the old Orange Drive across the street from Angel Stadium.
Right.
And so he'd go there Saturdays and Sundays. And then on Sunday, if he did really well in the morning, he'd start packing up around noon, and then we'd head to Disneyland because he still had the A, B, C, D, and E tickets. If he didn't do so well, then he'd start packing about 3 o'clock, and we'd go to Knott's Lagoon afterwards. And
back then, Knott's Berry Farm wasn't walled in. You could park and walk across the street.
Yeah.
Same thing with Disneyland. There was no admittance. If you wanted to go on a ride, you'd have to buy a ticket book. But you could walk into Disneyland for free.
It was great.
And you had to buy tickets. The other thing I was going to say, I did a concert. It was funny. It was when David Gates went solo. So he was the lead singer of Bread, and he went solo. And I'm sitting in Anaheim Stadium. I'm way up in the roof doing a Super Trooper. And we're rehearsing and stuff, and I look down, and sure enough, it's Bob Eubanks. Bob Eubanks, as you know, was a concert promoter. He brought the Beatles here back in '63 when he was a KRLA, and he also continued doing that. And the opening band for David Gates was a group called Jelly, and I thought, it's a Bread and Jelly tour.
We're talking with Jan Marie and David Narz. This is the Talking Archive. I'm Josh Jacobs. By the way, if you'd like to contact us, just write joshdj57 at gmail.com. That's joshdj57 at gmail.com. And next time, Jan talks about her time at a station that had 2 signals, both on the AM as well as the FM, that originally broadcast from the Disneyland Hotel shopping area and later 1190 Ball Road.